When is an 8A award not an 8A award? This actually started, the theory behind this analysis and where it originated was at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Their gut feeling was that they were missing some 8A awards from their statistics, and then in cooperation with them we took a deeper look, and we've identified several patterns where that is the case across the federal government, as we'll see. The agenda for today, some quick introductions, Fed data check and Potomac Wave overview, and then we're going to talk about how does the Small Business Goaling Report in FPDS&G, how does it calculate 8A awards and the 8A percentage for an agency. Quick side note, what does total small business eligible dollars mean? That's an FPDS&G term. 3 scenarios when an 8A award is not an 8A award. Of course, they are 8A awards. Really, what to elaborate on that is when an 8A award not counted as an 8A award. Okay, widening the net, tightening the net. So we've identified the 3 scenarios we'll go over. I'm going to say they're 99% likely 8A awards that are not currently being counted as 8A awards. And from there, you can say, okay, I want to widen the net. I want to catch those that maybe are 50-50, maybe they're 8A awards, and tightening the net. Conversely, how you can really focus in on the ones that are highly likely 8A but not being counted as such. Anybody getting feedback? No. If anyone's hearing feedback, let me know. I'm getting a touch of it. Bottom line, we'll just recap that, how to ensure your 8A percentage is being counted correctly. All right, my name is Bob Hartford. I'm a Vice President of Business Intelligence Products at Potomac Wave Consulting. Fed Data Check is a product that's been out for 4 or 5 years now. And I think I know what it is. Hold on 1 second, if you would. I've got the speaker audio on. That's my problem. Is everyone still hearing? Yeah, that was me. I had something wrong with my audio. I'm all set. Okay. The Fed Data Check does helps agencies improve their procurement metrics. We started out with FPDS&G data quality, which is really what we're talking about today, making sure contract action reports are accurately coded in FPDS&G. So you get your small business full credit for these small business awards you do make, for example. Potomac Wave, small business located in Alexandria, women-owned small business. I'll stay on the line afterwards if people want to have a deeper discussion on Fed Data Check in general or Potomac Wave in general. But we do other procurement metrics as well. For example, award reporting, looking at mismatches between FPDS&G awards that should have awards being reported, and yet they're not coming through on USA spending. One example. Monitoring high-risk vendors. We recently found one for one of our subscribers where a vendor who was just recently debarred did get a new award. So that's something have automated a check on. Okay, so topic of today, what is an 8A award, not an 8A award? All right, let's get into it now. Let's see how FPDS&G, which is the system of record when it comes to small business calculating an agency's small business achievements, let's see how they calculate 8A awards. Okay. So I'm going to log into XDSG. Try that again. Okay. So I'm going to go to standard reports. I'm going to go to how. I'm going to scroll down to the small business goaling report right here. I'm not going to click on it. I'm going to click on the magnifying glass next to it. And that pulls up the rules for the report. All right, volume is very quiet. Cannot hear you very well. Let me up that, double check that. Okay, good comments, Daniel, Kathy, Joseph. If you can keep me posted on that, I'll speak a little louder and ping me again if that volume is not going through. Good, thank you. Better, all right. Okay, so quick recap. I logged into FPDS and G. I clicked on standard reports. I clicked on how. I came down to small business goals. Don't click on the report. Click on the appendix, the magnifying glass. Now I got all the rules. And let's see how they calculate. And I'm going to search for 8A. So there's my 8A procedure, actions, dollars, percentages. I keep searching at it, and I come down here, I can see the rules right here. The 8A procedure dollars. This column is an aggregation of dollars obligated when the contracting officer's business size selection is small business, right? Straightforward. And the type of set aside is set to one of the following values: 8A sole source, 8A with hub zone, 8A competing. And nowadays, we're only concerned about 8A sole source, 8A competing. 8A with hub zone went away years ago. So 8A, they got to have a small business, and the set aside has to be an 8A sole source or 8A competing. All right, now I'd like to do my first poll. I have it set up, and I'm going to create one. Vendor has to be 8A. Stay on this one. Okay, let's see if I can launch this poll there. I'm interested in your feedback. I have my polls right here. I'm going to select the poll. Launch. Poll must be enabled. Polling in progress. Oh, 150. There we go. I got 80% yes, 20% no. So in other words, for you to get credit for an 8A award, does the vendor have to be SBA 8A certified? %, yes. 15% no. That can be kind of. Let me give it few more seconds here. All right, we got 87% yes, 13% no. The answer from the group there was yes. Hopefully people can see my screen again. But the answer is no. And we'll look at two examples. Okay. Here. We'll look at an agriculture example. And I'm going to click on Easy Search. I'm going to click on PID. Type in PID, I'll enter the PID. Let's take a look at it. It was made it was an FY17 award, fairly recent. Okay, still getting some pings on the voice. I'll try this here too.
I think that'll work better for people. I think I saw what the problem was. Doggone it. That was my mistake. Thanks again for your questions there on the phone. But I learned something on that. Okay. Much better. All right. Doggone it. Okay. So the question is, does the vendor have to be an SBA certified 8A company for the agency to get 8A credit if they do an 8A set aside? And I said no. So here's this agriculture award, USDA award, FY17. And if you look at the vendor socioeconomic, there's no 8A indication here. Let's go over to SAM and check there. So I'm going to put in that DUNS number and hit search. Forest Technology Systems Ltd. Forest Technology Systems Ltd. View details. I'm going to first click on core data, and I'm going to see when the SAM record was submitted, active. Okay, so it was active as of April 5th. Good time ago, and this was signed on 8/15. So the current SAM record is the one that's applicable to the award we're looking at. Let's then go look at view the selected record. I'm going to look at reps and certs now, and I'm going to come down to the small business section right here. Click on that. And there is no NAICS table, but if you look at, for this purposes, let's look at small disadvantaged concern. First of all, it says the offer represents as part of its offer that it is not a small business. And they have not checked that they are an SDB. They're not an 8A company, not in SAM. They're not. Any comments? Anyone want to raise a hand on that? I mean, it was not in the record that they're an 8A. Nothing in here, and everything in SAM is pointing to they're an OTSB, let alone not an 8A. But if you come down, remember there was a two-part test in that FPDS&G record. It counted as an 8A. The first test is the CO business size an S? Let's check that. Okay, the CO put an S here. Might have been by mistake, but that's what the CO put. The second test in FPDS&G Small Business Goaling Report is the type of set-aside 8A sole source or 8A competed? HubZone is out of date again. It's no longer used. Yep, 8A sole source. All right, so let's prove this one more. So let's go to let's run the Small Business Goaling Report. Log in again. Okay. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to go standard, how, small business goaling, and I'm going to go ahead and run it for this day. I'll run it for 1200. I'll run it for 12C2. And I'm going to do, it doesn't matter whether I do contracting office or funding office in this case, but the small business percentages drive off the funding organization. I'll put that in. And let's see what the Small Business Goaling Report has for that award. I'm going to drill down to PID. I'm going to drill down to mod number. Okay, so here we go. 12P17005, 12P17035, mod 0. Mod 0 is for $30,000, $3248 right there. Does it count as an 8A award? Sure does, right there. So that is one thing that really can confuse people, is they go, well, I made the award to an 8A vendor, therefore I get 8A credit. Or conversely, in this example, it was not made to an 8A vendor. It was, you know, it's a little mistake in the coding, it looks to me, and they do get 8A credit. So the important thing to keep in mind is when you go, if we can look at that Small Business Goaling Report one last time, and this is really the key concept, is when FPDS&G assigns your agency the 8A goaling credit for the year, the dollars and the percentages, FPDS&G, if you want to put it as a person, does not care if the vendor was 8A or not. I mean, you do when you make the award and you code it and follow the SBA regs. But you know, FPDS&G has those blinders on, and it says, okay, is it a small business? Was it an 8A set aside? Boom, 8A credit. Was it a small business and it did have some other type of set aside in there? HubZone, maybe no set aside specified, small business, total small business set aside. Okay, it's not 8A. Might be a small disadvantage. We'll give you small disadvantage business SDV credit, but we're not going to give you 8A credit unless we see that type of set aside field set to one of those two values, 8A sole source, 8A competed. Any questions so far? Comments? Okay. Let's get back to the PowerPoint slides. So went through that, and I put down here, vendor socioeconomic status is not considered by FPDS&G when determining the 8A procedure percentage. Just talking about reporting now, not talking about adhering to SBA regulations, just talking about how it gets reported. Now, one of the other things if you are looking at an FPDS&G report, a good thing to always check is look for the word exclusions. So these are all of the types of awards that get thrown out when calculating the small business goalie percentage. One of which is unicorn awards. They're not counted. It's as if, for purposes of calculating the small business rate, it's as if those awards do not exist. So let's take, with that in mind, let's look at one other award. And maybe people, this happens to be another agriculture one. I don't really mean to be picking on this one, but let's look at it. So now we're thinking about exclusions. These are awards that get thrown out when calculating an agency's small business percentage. They don't count against you. They don't count for you. Okay, so this award here is a small business. It is an 8A sole source award. And I could tell you that they are, in fact, an 8A company. I checked. Everything's good. You come up here, I see SBA certified 8A. And I'm going to come up here a little bit farther, and we'll look in on the screen now. Maybe we should do one more. Let me create a new. We'll forget that. Let's do it. Does this award count as an 8A award? Yes. Okay. And let me go here and launch that. Poll open. So we said that the first, it met the two tests. It was a small business, and it was an 8A set-aside. People are saying yes on this one. No no's yet. We'll give it a few more seconds. So I got one no. Most people are saying yes. I got a few no's. All right, let's close it up. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen again. For those who said no, if you can raise your hand or type in as a question why you said no. Why? I did get a question here. Do you also track Buy America procurements? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Yvonne. Maybe I can. Yvonne, can you explain what your question there is? Do you also track Buy America procurements? Anyway, the answer to this question is no, it does not count as an 8A award. It doesn't count as a small business award. It gets thrown out. It shouldn't, because it looks like a coding error, but it does. Look at that, Alaska Native. So you got some SDV credit there. You got, of course, you got an 8A credit. You got all kinds of credit in there. But this is the problem right here: foreign funding, foreign funds, non-foreign military sales. You put foreign funding on an award, it gets thrown out of the small business goaling report. So if I come back here and I come down to that exclusions, the following exclusions apply right here. Acquisitions by agencies on behalf of foreign governments or entities or international organizations. Actions that are funded by foreign entities. Funded by foreign entity equals yes, or foreign funding equals foreign funds, foreign military sales, foreign funds, non-foreign military sales. So on this transaction, that's what they mistakenly designated. So for those who answered no, that's correct. And the reason, so if you run this, if you run the small business goaling report for this day, I just did it, take my word for it, we'll move on. But if you run it for, if you run the small business goaling report for this day, for 12C2, this PID isn't even going to show up. Well, should we do it? Let's do it. And so this is the first reason, this is the first good example. This vendor is in the United States. The place of performance is Alaska. What are they doing? Roof replacement? Boy, did a foreign government fund an agriculture award for a roof replacement in the Prince of Wales? Yeah, I don't think so. But if you run that report, I can run it for this day. I can run it for 1200, and I can run it for 12C2. Remember, we said the funding office. Well, let's just execute that. I'll drill down to the PID. I got all my PIDs for that day. 727, 727, 12C2, 12C2. I can export that to Excel. There it is, open to Excel. And let's go see if we can find it. So that PID should be in there. If it was counted as an 8A award, it's not there. Why is it not there? It was excluded, thrown out. Okay. So we talked about how FPDS&G counts 8A awards. We talked about what gets excluded. And so now we're going to talk about the three scenarios when an 8A award is not an 8A award, and we just saw one. An award was designated as $8A. It was a small business, 8A set aside, somebody slipped, it was a typo, you know, just a data input oversight, and they designated foreign funding, therefore it got excluded from the report. Now I did get a question here, we have a requirement to Buy America. I noticed the first vendor was in Canada. I wondered if this will help in tracking that also. You know, that is another poll question I had here. And I will launch that one. It's a related question, and it's this one. are contracts performed outside the United States? So let's say the vendor's in Canada, the place of performance is in Canada. Does that count towards your small business? Let's say you had I don't know if you could have an 8A award to somebody, a vendor in Canada, but let's say you had an 8A vendor from Alaska, but the work was being performed outside the United States in Canada. Do you get 8A credit for that? So far, we get all no's. Give it a few more seconds here. I got a few yeses. 90% no, 10% yes. 20% yes now. So the yeses are going up. 75% no, 3/4 no, 1/4 yes. I'll give it another 10 seconds. Okay. And the answer is yes and no, which surprised me. They recently changed that rule in FPDS&G, and it is, so I'm looking again, I hit that magnifying glass next to the report. Now I'm looking at the details of how the report is calculated, and it is right here. Contracts performed outside the United States. Awards performed outside the U.S. are designated when the country and the place of performance is not the United States. Okay. This data will no longer be excluded when the date signed is on or after October 1st, 2015. So it used to be, but it isn't any longer. So you get small businesses doing the work, and they're doing it in the Middle East, Canada. Now it counts. And that's on the transaction level. It's not on the award level. It's on the transaction level. I am 99% sure on that. And actually, that came up at the Department of State. Someone at the Department of State pointed that out to me, because I used to think it did not count. I mean, or that's how it always used to be. And then I hadn't realized they changed that rule, looks like a few years ago. All right, now let's look at these. So that was a minor one. We actually already have a check on that. It's Fed data check number 72. Let's look at the two other scenarios where agencies are really losing credit when it comes to 8A awards. And I'm going to turn that over to Brian Yost, who's on the Fed data check team, to run those reports. Brian, I think it's your show now.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Hi, everybody. So we're going to go over two new reports right here, and we're pretty confident in what we're going to show you, but if anyone has any feedback, jump in at any time because we want to know what you guys all think. This is pretty much what all landing pages look like, each department page looks like. I'm looking at labor right now. To access these new reports, there's two places you can do that. The first is right under this new features banner here, and it'll be the first two ones you see. Likely miscoded 8A awards, definitive contracts, and purchase orders, and then likely miscoded 8A awards, delivery orders, and BPA calls. The second location is over here on our drop-down menu where it's small business, 8A miscodings, DCA, PO, and 8A miscodings, DO, BPA call. All right, so I'm going to start by clicking on the first one here. It's going to be about definitive contracts and purchase orders. So When you open it, you'll have familiar parameters on the side here. I'm sure you've seen if you've done a few of these reports before. And for this exercise, I'm just going to do all agencies. And I'm going to kick it back to last year, include FY17, just so we have more to look at. So what I'm doing right now is I'm running the report, looking at all agencies and labor. I haven't selected any other parameters. The ones that are pre-selected for me are the reason not competed, which is OTH authorized by statute. And I'll explain why we have that selected for you already in just a second once this comes up. A little slow here, so you should be any second. Well, while this is going, I'm going to get the other report up and ready too. I'm just going to click on the second one now. I'll run that in the background while we wait for the other one in case something is running and causing a little hiccup. Okay. Well, let's go over the first one, or the second one, I guess. That one came back pretty quickly. All right, so this one, I'll go over the parameters real quick. I'm doing all agencies and labor. And here we give you the selection to choose the ref IDV set-aside. That's the set-aside that was attached to the actual reference vehicle. So for those, I have selected not specified, none, no set-aside used, small business set-aside total, and small business set-aside partial. I'm going to go over the rest of these parameters that we have in here for you too. It's going to be in this first table you see. So we're looking for delivery orders and BPA calls where the award was not competed. The vendor who got the award is either a certified 8A program participant or a certified 8A joint venture. For statutory exception to fair opportunity, we want them to be only one source other statutory authority, sole source. And then for the reference IDV, we want it to be a competed award, a multiple award. And then for the types of set-asides, we went over that. I'll go over it one more time. Not specified, no set-aside used. Small business set-aside total or small business set-aside partial. The dates right now, I'm just looking at this fiscal year so far. And I'll give you a description. So this is the description for this report is the type of set-aside field should most likely be an 8A, 8A sole source, or possibly 8A competed. I'll delve into our reasoning here. The award is presumed to be an 8A sole source award if, 1, the order or call referenced a competed IDV, and the IDV did not use a set-aside or use a total, partial, small business set-aside. 2, the order or call was not competed and referenced a sole source justification in the fair opportunity limited sources field. 3, the awardee is an SBA certified 8A vendor, and 4, one offer was received. The award is presumed to be an 8A competed award if, 1, the order or call referenced a competed IDV, and the IDV did not use a set-aside or use a total partial small business set-aside. 2, the order or call was not competed, and other statutory authority is referenced in the fair opportunity limited sources field. 3, the awardee is an SBA certified 8A vendor, and 4, more than one offer was received. So let's see, not too many examples for this fiscal year. I might take it back in a second, but let's go over this one first. So we give the contract identification info here. We give you a link out, and of course that'll go out to FDS&G. Another link that goes to the reference IDV, so you can look at where this award is being purchased through. Type of contract, it's going to be a delivery order. It can also be a BPA call in this report. This one is a delivery order. It was not competed. The extent competed is full and open competition after exclusion of sources. So that suggests to me right away that this wasn't necessarily meant to be a not competed award. For the statutory exemption to fair opportunity, it's OSA, other statutory authority. So that's where we're really going to be looking in 1 second when we actually drill out. and there was no set-aside used. There was one offer. So now let's look at the reference IDV, competition information. So it was competed, full and open competition after exclusion of sources. So that, again, that was propagating down. That's why we saw that in the award that was made off of this IDV. It was a multiple award IDV. Type of set-aside was small business total. And type of contract, it was federal supply schedule. So let's actually click through on the award itself, take a look at it. I'm drilling out to FPDS. I'll try to go slow here. There's usually a slight delay when we show FPDS and G on these webinars. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll to the business category information. So right now I can see the socioeconomic data and their certification. So they are a certified 8A company and a small business, but really it's that SBA certified 8A program participant that we're looking for. Then I'm going to scroll down to competition. You can see again, yeah, so type of IDV set-aside was a small business set-aside. Type of set-aside for this award, none was selected. If I look down, it got one offer. And under the Fair Opportunity Limited Sources field, it says Other Statutory Authority. So this is an interesting one.
Hey, this is Bob Harford. Can everyone hear me? So what's going on here is that an order was placed against a federal supply schedule that was a MAC, multiple award contract, and the competition, if there was no competition, but the order was restricted to one vendor, right? Because you got one offer and there's a sole source justification, other statutory authority is being cited. We think, and we're 99%, this is what happens, is the other statutory authority that's being cited is FAR 19A. They're saying we used the SBA 8A program to award a sole source award to an 8A vendor. But when they got down to the coding and they put in other statutory authority, the type of set-aside field is ghosted out. And does anyone know why that is? If anyone want to raise their hand. Brian, can you pull up the document we have with this on how to code it? So NOAA came up with the one. This is what trips people up on this one in particular. And here's where you're really going to get credit when you run that report and you go through these examples. If you scroll down a bit and take a look at that first picture and enlarge it, you have to pick. If you pick other statutory authority, not one of those ones that are in yellow, the type of set-aside field is going to be ghosted out. You can't change it. So in this example that we were looking at, when they had a order against a MAC, an FSS MAC, they should have put sole source as the fair opportunity limited sources value. And then, if you scroll down, then the type of set-aside field becomes unghosted, and then you could put 8AN, 8A sole source. So that's the key, is if we go back to the car, is that in that fair opportunity limited sources field, you got to put on the ones that we put in this report. If it's a sole source award, put sole source as the fair opportunity, then go change the type of set-aside field. If it was an 8A competed award, then you put competitive set-aside and change the type of set-aside to 8A competed. Because remember, when we looked at that small business goaling report, there's only two conditions for counting on that 8A award. Was it a small business? And then the type of set-aside. And this one here, it was an 8A award, but since that type of set-aside field was not set properly, actually started earlier, since the Fair Opportunity Limited Sources field was not set properly, the CO was unable to go back to the type of set-aside and change that from small business set-aside to 8AN, 8A sole source. All right, let me turn it back over to Brian.
All right, so yeah, that was our first report. That's looking at delivery orders, BPA calls. I'll jump over to the other report that did come back here. So this is looking at definitive contracts and purchase orders. So it's a similar idea here. What we're restricting these two is we're going to have the reason not competed is going to be authorized by statute. And for the award other than full and open competition, it's going to be authorized by statute FAR 6302-5821. I'm going to just go ahead. I'm going to pick a high dollar value one here. We can actually take a look at them. Go with this one right here. All right. I'm going to drill out to FPDS. Sorry to open on my other screen here. Okay. So first thing, I'm going to look at that socioeconomic information. They are a SBA certified program participant, 8A program participant. We'll scroll down to that competition information, and we're going to see that this is an only one source solicitation procedure. It was authorized by statute FAR 6302-5821. It had one offer. Interestingly here, actually, kind of surprised to see it, the contracting officer's business size selection is other than small business, which I wouldn't have expected, but okay. I'm going to go back to the report. I'm going to show you where we link out to this FAR reference here, which is actually going to be pretty important. So that authorized by statute 6302, let me get it right, 5A, I believe it is, right here. Make sure I've got that right. 63025A2I. Okay, so here it is right here. So we're looking at this. So what it's saying is full and open competition need not be provided for when a statute expressly authorizes or requires that the acquisition be made through another agency or form of specified source, or the agency's need is for brand name commercial items for authorized resale. So what this is saying here is that it should be, this is something that you would use if this was an award made through another agency or some specified source, which is, it's the actual alert. So essentially this is saying that, I'm actually going to throw it to Bob on this one for this specific language.
Yeah. So what we're looking at here is so the award. It's a definitive contract or purchase order. We're not referencing a federal supply schedule, obviously, but the CO said the reason why the authority that I have to make this a sole source award is because a statute expressly authorizes that the acquisition be made through another agency or from a specified source. And what we have found is that what the CO is trying to say, mistakenly, is that the award went through SBA. They're referencing, again, 19.8. That's what's going through their head. And we're going to put this at the 99% confidence level. And everything's coded great. I mean, I don't. It seems like a reasonable pick to me. If we go, we can pick the $3 million one. Let's take a look at that one. that other than, I was going to check the OTSB designation on that one we're looking at. That was unusual. Here's Chugach again. This is the same one. If you go all the way to the bottom, damn, that's other. Okay. So that's 9 million. Okay. I just want to find one where it does say, okay. There's a purchase order, do that one. That's good. See the purchase order one? Right. There we go, microbase. Let's see who they are. Scroll all the way to the bottom. Okay, small business. That looks good. They're referencing that statute we said, which was they have authority because it was being made through another agency. What is going through there is that they think, okay, it's an 8A award. We're working this through the SBA. Is it an 8A vendor? Scroll up to the socioeconomic category. Yep, SBA certified 8A. So what happens is they simply forget to set the type of set-aside field to 8A sole source. So what we've been doing with Fed Data Check is we get that list of, we get that report. If you go back to the report, and you know, we send this out, and on the right we have the last updated by, all the way on the right, I believe. And right there, you know, if you send these out to Mario Pizarro and Rhonda Sizemore and Yvonne Pollock, they're going to come back and say, yep, you're right. I checked the file. It was an 8A sole source. I'm going to update the type of set-aside field. Okay, any questions or comments so far? Okay. Okay. All right, I'm going to do the presenter again, and we'll take a look at these. Okay, people back on my PowerPoint now? Yep, all right. Okay, so the first scenario we went through was that erroneously designated the foreign funding. And then here's the next two. You got an order call that says other statutory authority in the fair opportunity limited sources field. The vendor is 8A, and the type of set-aside, no 8A set-aside. That's scenario number two. What should happen? Say sole source in that fair opportunity limited sources field, SS, sole source. Then you're enabled to say what set-aside you used on that order. I will preface that by saying that it is orders or calls against multiple award contracts that used a full and open competition or a total small business set aside. So you had a big pool to pick from on the IDV. You're saying you had authority to do a sole source on the order call against that multiple award contract, but you picked the wrong one. The one we just looked at, definitive contracts and purchase orders, they're citing other authorized by statute, and they're citing one that says I made the the award is going through another agency. That seems like an okay pick to me. Does anyone have a if you do an 8A sole source? Well, actually, we could look at that, but there's no issue with that. But don't forget to go set the type of set-aside field. This is what we think's going on there, and based on our experience, it's about 99% of the time. Okay, let's keep going here. I'm a little bit out of time. Widening the net. So if I go to Department of, let's go shoot over to Interior, because I know they had some interesting ones. Now would be a good time for a question or a comment. You can raise your hand. I'd love to have some additional input here. Let me just see if anybody's doing that. No? Okay. Widening the net. Let's open up this one here. We'll do all bureaus. And actually, I'm going to do it on the other one. I'm going to do it on this one here. Okay, so we said that this authorized by statute, that's where they reference that FAR citation where the award is going through another agency. You know, you could also take a look at this one. If you wanted to open up the net a little bit wider, say, I'm just about going to make my 8A goal. Did I miss any? Take a look at only one source. Those are some other ones that also have the potential of being 8A awards where the type of set-aside field was overlooked. We'll see if any come back on that. There's one right there. So, if you drill out on that, pretty good size award. A lot of these, all of these, we've seen them come back where they check the file and they actually are 8A awards. 8A recipient, small business. They're citing a reason why there was only one source. We think the reason was there was an 8A. I say that was more than likely on that one. As a result, without setting that set aside, lost that credit on the 8A award. So that's what I mean by widening the net. You could come through here on these reports when you run them and say, okay, don't give me the 99%. Let me look at some others where they had another justification why it was not competed, and maybe they 8A sole source was part of that rationale. Okay, but that's what we mean on that. Tightening the net. Now, here's one thing that you do have to be careful of, which what we had, and I will show the example on that. Here, let's see. This one. So we've gone through a lot of examples where, let's call them false negatives. They actually were 8A awards, but they were not coded as such. Here's one that could be considered a false positive. You think it's an 8A award, but it actually isn't. So we'll see on this one. Actually, is a NOAA award. It's an 8A participant, so boy, that's starting to think that, okay, is this an 8A award that, again, was missed? And the type of small business, it's here. The type of set-aside was a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. You also will see hub zone. So the reason why you could get only a sole source award, or maybe why you only get one offer, it's not because it was an 8A sole source, or it is not because it was 8A competed. They used a different type of small business set-aside that had a pretty narrow filter on it, such as a hub zone, service-disabled, veteran-owned small business, something else. So these we found, initially we thought they might have been 8A, but they're not. It's because that a different type of fairly restrictive or somewhat restrictive small business set-aside was used, and that explains the number of offers and the 8A recipient. So tightening the net. Don't, if you tighten it too much, you can get some in there that are more than likely are correct as is. Okay, bottom line here. While we wrap this up, see if there are any questions, comments, raise your hand. Love to have you on based on your experience. But well, what's the bottom line? How do you ensure you get 8A credit? Let's say you're right on that. You know, I've seen it where people, HCAs, they're getting called in. It's coming up in February, I believe, is when you certify the numbers to go back to OMB. You know, you're right on that. Maybe you're 0.1% off of your goal, and you say, "Boy, you know, I thought we hit our goals this year. How did we miss it?" And the answer is, just like we said, you missed some, and that is, look at that fair opportunity limited sources field. If you have an 8A recipient, and it was a sole source award in particular. If you see, you know, what I would do is anytime you see an 8A recipient and you see other statutory authority in the competition section, and you don't see the type of set-aside as an 8A set-aside, that's a red flag. Maybe correct, but I would, more than likely, there's a problem there. 8A vendor, fair opportunity, limited sources, field value, other statutory authority. Now I know I'm not going to get the type of set-aside because it's ghosted out, unless it's on the IDV. You know, same thing with definitive contract and purchase order. 8A recipient, other statutory authority. This time it would be in the other than full and open competition field. I don't have an 8A set-aside. Well, let me give that one a quick double check in the contract file. You know, I did want to see if I had one more, and then take your questions. I'll also stay on the line. I did want to look at which one is this? That's definitive contracts. We'll look at this one for interior. If this one comes back. Yeah, this is a good one here. And this is the last one I'll go through. And it's one we haven't gone through. We already said that other statutory authority, one offer, we're saying was an 8A sole source. So if I look at this one, 8A, plan not required, no set-aside used, that comes down from the IDV, and that's what's going to be on your order call unless I set fair opportunity to sole source or competitive set-aside. If I set that fair opportunity to one of those two values, then the type of set-aside on the order call is unghosted and I can set it. So on this one, I got one offer, 8A, other statutory authority. That should have been sole source, 99% chance. Type of set-aside should have been 8A sole source. But look at this one here, and this is the last one we'll do. 3 offers. So how did that happen? Right there. I got a sole source justification, and I got 3 offers. A vendor, small business, 3 offers. You got 9 offers on the IDV, you got 3 offers on the order call. Boy, that's sure telling me that it was competed. Any comments on that? I got a question here. Okay. Can we get copies of the slides? And now I'll go through how you get slides here right in a second. But boy, this is a dead giveaway. We had a small business set aside total on the IDV right here. I then restrict the competition on the order call, and I show it to 3 8A vendors. Everything's good so far. I have authority to do that. But that's an 8A competed award if I've ever seen one. To me, I mean, I would gladly take a bet on that. So what should have happened? Flip this fair opportunity limited sources. That should have been competitive set aside, CSA. Then type of set aside field is unghosted. Set that to 8A competed. Now you're set. You get all the credit you deserve on the small business. You properly noted that as a competed award, and so on. So that's it. Do I have any comments, questions? I'll also stand on. How do you get slides, by the way? Well, if you're in your, you should be able to see it in your handout section. So I got them in there. You can see the slides right here in the handouts section on your GoToWebinar. And then there's a second way. If you forget to get it or you want to come back and get it, when you get our webinar announcements, here, most of you got a webinar announcement like this here. Click on the event calendar. In fact, we should note on that. But if you click on that event calendar, you're going to go out to our Gmail calendar. And if, let's say I wanted to get one for today, click on that. More details. And there's the slides right there. So go out to the calendar and do more details. Or when you're on the webinar, if you look in your handout section, you can download it from there. I hope that was, we went through a lot. Check out those 2 new reports on Fed Data Check under new features. I think they're self-explanatory. Those are going to identify 99% likelihood. That's my statement. Those are 8A awards that are not coded properly. Give us a call if you have a question, but those 2 new reports are the place to start. Foreign funding, we went through that. We already alert you automatically on those. And I think you should at least get a 0.5%. So if you're at 4.5 and you go through those 2 reports for your agency, I think you'll get up to 5. We're seeing a 0.5% to 1%. And for some, for one, went way high, over 100%. So you double it for one agency we're looking at. I went a little over, but that was a somewhat complex. I hope it was helpful. I will stay on the line if anybody has any comments or wants to talk to me offline. But otherwise, that's it for the webinar. And I appreciate you attending.